Hey there folks, this is Greeny XI, welcoming you to my Bravely Default 2 impressions video. This is for the Switch. I finished it the Sunday just gone, I finished it, and I'm very torn on what I think about the game. There's a lot of positives, a lot of negatives. I love my JRPGs, so I loved it either way, but there are some negatives, I can see the flaws kind of thing. So yeah, Bravely Default 2, it is a typical JRPG, very typical, but with a twist with the battle system. In that it's turn-based, but instead of using your turn, you can defend, and when you defend, it's called defaulting, and you store up a turn so that you can use 2 turns next time. So next time his turn comes around, you'll attack twice. They've introduced the ATB system this time, so you have the ATB bar going up, but when you go out on full speed, you can change the speed settings. When you go out on full speed, you don't even see the bar going up, so it seems a bit pointless in that point. But if you're playing at regular speed, which I couldn't do because it was too slow for me, it's fine when it's at regular speed, yeah. So, anyways, I say it's typical Bravely. It has got the job system, that's back. So you choose your job, you have your main job, which gets the job points and learns new abilities as you go along until you master it. And then you get your secondary job, which you can use the skills that are learnt from another job. So you could have a black mage that can use white magic, or to make him red magey-ish. There's a different class with a red mage in this one, but anyway. You can make a knight that can do white magic, like Cecil from Final Fantasy IV. You can do anything, whatever your mind can come up with. You know, I tended to do freelance all the way through. That's the basic class for all 4 classes. Until they got mastered, because once they get mastered, they learn this secondary passive ability, which makes it so that every other class you master, the freelancer boosts its stats. And when you get to the last boss, that makes the game simple. So, yeah, that's how you cheat the game, in my opinion. You just get a freelancer going and then master every class you can along the way, without wasting your JP on classes you've already mastered, kind of thing. So that's the best way of going about it, I think. It made the game a lot easier in the first 2 games on the 3DS. So anyway, you got that class system, typical JRPG. You got your world map, you got enemies showing up on the screen so you can just choose to fight them or not. You can press Y and actually attack the enemy so that you get a bit of an advantage, extra BP, I think, the Bravely points. So an extra turn to start off with. I think that's what you get for attacking them. Speaking of slashing though, a little bit of a change on the tradition. When you're walking around the world map, or dungeons, some dungeons, you can slash away at grass and you get money out of it. You can get some really good equipment, stuff that's being sold in the current shops and stuff sometimes. So it's worth doing. It's a bit tedious to just run around doing, but if you're just running from one place to another, you just randomly press Y to slash now and again and you might get something good. Later on you can cut down trees and rocks, but I never saw that very often, I think only for plot. By the way, before I go any further, I forgot to mention at the start, there will be spoilers with the story, but the story is so basic, does it really matter? It's more about the gameplay and the music from this game. So anyway, speaking of the individual sort of things, we are going to look at the graphics. They're really nice. Like for a Switch game, they're really nice. They're sort of cartoony, sort of clay doll-ish. I don't know if that makes sense at all. It's very similar to the first 2 Bravely games on 3DS. You got those sorts of characters, models, but they look sort of clayish, almost. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what to compare it to either. It looks different, and that's a good thing. I think that's a really good thing. Other than the characters, we have got the scenery, the environments, and they look really nice. It's like a mixture. The towns are the same as the first 2 Bravely games. They're sort of like picture book, flat-ish environments until you get up close and go into a house or something. You know, sort of like Paper Mario, I guess, where you go, but not just sideways. You can go around. And, yeah. So it's a mixture of that in the towns, and when you get to dungeons and stuff, it feels a little bit Octopath Traveler-ish. It's really nice to look at. It's different to Octopath. There's not that sort of shine element. It's nice to look at. Have a look on YouTube and buy the game. I recommend it. If you like your JRPGs. If you don't like JRPGs, this is so old school and classic, you probably might not like it. But anyway. Music, the best thing, absolutely the best thing about the game. I heard good things about the music before I started playing. I hadn't listened to the music, but I'd heard comments about it. And it lives up to it. Like, the Bravely series has such good music, and JRPGs in general, really. My favourite track from the game has to be the last boss song. It's so dramatic, it's so operatic. I'll be honest with it, I didn't get to hear it much because I over-leveled and stuff before going into it, being really worried because I found the other Bravely last bosses to be really hard. But this one, no, I found it really easy because I did too much. And that's my own fault. That's my own fault. I'll have to go on YouTube and listen to it properly, but what I did hear was incredible, and it fit that moment so well. The amount of struggle and strife and everything your party members have gone through to get to that point, you really feel it when you go against this boss. Speaking of the story, so you got four party members, 4 characters, all travelling around the world in order to find the 4 great crystals, the world's essences. You've heard it all before. It was in the other Bravely games. It was in Final Fantasy 1 and some of the others, 3 I think, and probably some of the others as well. I don't know, I can't think right now. But that's the basic story of it all. You just have these 4 characters collecting the crystals from the enemies, then you go for the big baddie. That's the end. Of course, that's simplified, just like Final Fantasy 7 saying you got a party chasing after a big baddie, Sephiroth. There's a lot more along the way, as you know, is gonna be. Not too much more though. It is a pretty basic story. Like, the motives for the 4 party members, we have got, hold on, they all have this sort of set objectives, and that's about all you find out about them for the most part all the way through. We've got Elvis, this really Scottish guy, but it's a good Scottish accent. It's strong, but you can understand it, kind of thing. He's just going around with the party to fill in the asterisk book, mainly. This book he's carrying around that has memories that tells him what to do next. The story tells him more about that. I won't go into that, I know. There is Seth the Sailor. That's probably your main character. He starts off the game, you start with him sort of drowning in the sea, he fell overboard or something. And the Wind Crystal talks to him, saying to him, get up, you've got a big job to do, you've got to save the world, kind of thing. Find the other people, find the other heroes of light. Final Fantasy-ish again. So he tags along for that reason, just because he's told by the crystal that he's the big hero. There's also Princess Gloria. She lost her kingdom before the story started, you don't actually see any of it. That's pretty much her motive, to find the crystal. She's trying to save the rest of the world, I guess. And Adele, the 4th party member, she's this human who's tagging along with Elvis. It's hard to say what her motive is, I can't quite remember. I know she turns out, again, spoilers for this, it turns out that she is a fairy who hides as a human in the human world. And I think she's sort of examining humans and seeing if they're really as bad as everyone says in the fairy world. But I might be a bit mixed up with that, because it's towards the end of the game, and I sort of switched off now and again, just to get through it by the end, really. Even though I enjoyed it, but sometimes longer RPGs, it's about 60 hours long. It gets to like that, if you go for the true ending, anyway. So yeah, they'll be collecting the rose crystals, take on the Nexus, which is the big villain who's trying to wipe out the world. There are typical sort of Bravely twists at the end that I won't mention. I know I said I'd do spoilers, but I won't mention it just in case, because they are the big selling point of the series, you know. So I won't say any more on that. Anyone who was worrying about, in Bravely Default 1, there was this really bad part where once you reached about the halfway, 3/4 mark, you had to sort of repeatedly go to the 4 crystal, what are they called, shrines or dungeons or something, and keep repeating and repeating and repeating until you could carry on with the game. It was part of the plot if you wanted to go for the true ending. So that's not there this time. That's amazing news. I'm sure everybody's glad about that. Because that was an incredible game, other than that sort of element to it towards the end. Okay, so gameplay. I've already sort of gone into this, haven't I? It's turn-based, ability to stock turns and use the moves later, defaulting and bravely in. You've got encounters on the world map, town to town. Yeah, you just go from town to town, you have dungeons in the middle now and again. Caves, sewers, whatever. and you just solve the town's problems. You know, if you play Dragon Quest, you know exactly how that works. I think it's okay. When you fight a boss, it will normally be like a class type. So you might fight a white mage, and then when you beat that white mage as a boss, plot-wise, you will get the white mage as an asterisk, as a new job that you can equip to yourself and learn cure, you can learn healing moves, you can learn all that sort of stuff, passive and using abilities. Cure versus being able to heal over 9999 and having more max hit points. Yeah. So, there are 3 new jobs in this game, or 3 optional jobs I should say, that you have to get if you want to get the true ending anyway, so they're not really all that optional. But there's a couple of new jobs from the old games, worth having a look. Something else, this time with the equipment, there's a sort of weight limit. So if you are a white mage, you won't be able to equip as much weighty stuff as, say, a knight. You know, that sort of common sense logic that RPGs would have. You know, if you put armour on a white mage, it's going to use up a lot more of the weight limit. As you level up, as the character levels up, the weight goes up anyway, but not, you know, it still won't be a white mage. A white mage still won't be as high as a knight's one, and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's a good system. It encourages you to level as well as just upgrade your jobs or level grind your jobs, because it's a very grindy game. You get items that can pull in enemies and give you more JP when you beat multiple of them in a chain, but it's a very grindy game if you're gonna get through it. I remember spending 5 hours before the end of the game, but that was, again, me going over the top, so maybe it wasn't that bad. Yeah. Okay, replayability. There is a New Game Plus. I haven't tried it. I think it said that you carry over your abilities and money. I'm pretty sure. So you'd have an easy time of it a second time. You wouldn't have to grind everything and all that sort of stuff. You'd be able to do the optional bosses towards the end. Because there are quite a few optional bosses if you want to do that, so you can upgrade your jobs even more. And yeah, that's your rewards from. My overall thoughts. Okay, it's an addictive, very bloody addictive, but grindy game. And the grinding is what makes it addictive, almost. And all the side quests, which are pretty much just fetch quests, except for the odd ones, which you have little cutscenes and get to know your characters a bit better in the background, maybe. But overall, it's addictive. It's worth the go. I played for the 60 hours, no problem. It seems like a lot of time. It was the same with Persona 5, though, especially Royal. Like Royal, I went up to, what was it, about 100 hours? Maybe more. But I didn't have an issue with it. Like most games, if it was that long, I'd be like, nope, not even touching it. Xenoblade Chronicles, I've never played because I can't imagine putting hundreds of hours into it. But with, Persona 5 Royal and Bravely Default 2, it wasn't an issue for me. 60 hours just... it was good. It was good. I was glad when it was over. It meant I didn't have to grind anymore. There was that element to it, but it was still worth the playthrough 100%. Honestly, it's my least favourite Bravely game. Bravely Default and Bravely Second on the 3DS were better. Like, they had a bit more... I felt like they had a bit more story to them, a bit more grit. This one was very whimsical and not much darkness, except for the odd part. I'll highlight the artist, or the pictomancer. That's a good bit of story. But most of the time it's pretty whimsical and just go to the town and do what you have to do. You know? But that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's still a very good game. And I recommend it completely. I would give it a 7 out of 10. If you like your JRPGs, your old school ones, take it up a notch. Probably 8 out of 10. Or even 8.5, you know. But it's well worth a go. And there aren't that many JRPGs on the Switch. Not that many. So go for it. And most JRPGs now are sort of action based, even Final Fantasy, shockingly. So this is JRPG's classic style. It's time to shine. There are much better out there, modern. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any questions, give me a shout in the comments and I'll make sure to answer. This has been Greeny XI. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in a bit. Well, we still got Yumiko on the go at this point, but once that arc finishes, speaking of JRPGs, we're going back to JRPG land. Thanks again for watching, folks. See you again in a bit.